Hello and welcome back to Raid Madness. I am Colred, and with me today as our expert analyst is YST, the captain of Team Shadowverse in the HH Challenge, the free-to-play challenge this year. How you doing, YST?
I'm keeping well, thanks. How you been?
I've been good. I am excited to have you on as a collaborator. We've been talking a lot in our team chat, strategizing for the HH Challenge, but now I actually get you in here for a video. So I'm excited to get started. Have you taken a look at the bracket?
I took a little brief look. I was saying to you before we started recording, I was like, ooh, do I really want to look at it and sway my opinion? And I was like, let me just think on the fly here. Like, I was watching yours and Hades' video earlier, a little bit of it. I was like, same kind of thing. Oh, is there anything that's going to sway my opinions here? So it'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to this one.
All right, so we're going to get your first impression, honest opinion, which is great. Again, YST is our expert here. We're going to be talking through all of these epic champions. I know you recently did a collab, I think, with Nub Raids, and you were talking specifically about the best epics here in the game for 2024. I don't know how many of these are going to show up in our bracket, but hopefully you've got some good opinions on these champions. So we're going to start right away at the top of the list. And this is an interesting pick. So we do have our number one seed here is Doom Priest, who is a phenomenal champion. And then we've got Anchorite here at 16. Now, Anchorite is also an interesting champion who may be a little bit low. But is that enough for Anchorite to maybe pull up the upset here? What are you thinking about this matchup?
It's a tough matchup, man. Like, I'm actually a secret fan of Anchorite. I feel like he sits in that realm of Sandlash survivors and Godseekers and Ares with the ways that you can do the buff extension. So I've always been a big fan of him for players that don't have it, because he can also remove a random debuff from allies, I believe. One of his skills, let me just find it. Yep, so removes one random debuff. He also does that full heal of a target as well, which is great. And he's just a phenomenal champion. When you look back at Doom Priest now, and I'm thinking free to play, when I pulled a Doom Priest, I was going for progressive chances. I was going all out for her because she does not require any books to be amazing in this game. So, but if I was to see Anchorite in a 15 progressive, I wouldn't have had that same thought. So I think I definitely held Doom Priest to a higher regard, personally. Just for its versatile value, no books, cleanse debuffs off Eternal Dragons, or whatever that may be, keeps you affinity friendly and clan boss. But it's a tough one, man.
On your current challenge account, you happen to have a Doom Priest, don't you?
Yes.
And you, I believe, 6-starred her pretty early on. And has that decision been paying dividends? Do you feel like it was a good decision, or would you go back and maybe 6-star somebody else on your account?
There's nobody I would have maxed more than a Doom Priest. No way. Not especially that early on into the game. It's just, do you know when you think about Doom Tower, right? Your first clearing of these Doom Tower waves, you're facing Torments, you're facing block buffs champions, decrease attack, decrease accuracies, provokes. Doom Priest just comes in and just says, bye-bye, take it off, put in a relentless set, and, you know, it's as good as having like an actual cleanser, right? So, yeah, I would never change that opinion of Doom Priest.
Well, I think that says it all. I mean, I do like Anchorite. I think he's maybe a little bit undervalued here. In fact, we had to stretch just a little bit to get him into the bracket. He was not originally one of the top 64 champions, but I think maybe he's just not as well known. So he's got a lot going on, even a little bit of a heal on his A1, which is an AoE. So you can even throw him in a stun set and get value out of him in Doom Tower or Faction Crypts. But I think you're right. It's really, really hard. When you pull a Doom Priest, you just know that you're getting value for no books at all, which is a very rare thing to say, especially in the epic rarity. So I agree with you. I think Doom Priest is probably going to go through here.
Yeah. Do you know one thing with Anchorite and Doom Priest is, I'd say that Doom Priest is universally good, versatile in so many areas, requires very minimal gear and understanding of the game to have a value out of her. Someone like Anchorite is more clan boss focused, or I was even thinking just off the top of my head now, could actually be a good enfeeble target for the Phantom Shogun's Grove, because you could just put him in the highest crit damage, fully heal a target ally, which could be himself, and then, you know, could just survive the onslaught with a reset strategy into newts. So I think there is a lot of niche places for Anchorite, but Doom Priest, she's just too good. Even when I was playing Live Arena on my free-to-play just for a bit of fun, like I've got miscreated monsters, Royal Guards, Rathalos, Blade Masters. People were banning my Doom Priest, and I was like, what's going on here? Like, people just don't want to deal with it, you know, cleansing off all those debuffs. So
Yeah, a lot of sustain, really good utility. That's interesting. I'd never considered bringing Doom Priest into live arena before, but that's why you're the expert analyst on the show today, because you think about those things, YST, and it's always fun to get your take on these champions. Let's move down to the next game. This is a really interesting one as well. We've got Geomancer here as a 2 seed and Sepulchre Sentinel as a 15, both really good clan boss champions. Obviously, Geomancer is one of those names that you constantly hear about when you're talking about best epics in the game. First of all, do you think Geomancer is rated too low here as a 2 seed? Should he maybe have been the 1 seed in this region?
I would argue first, honestly, yeah. He's just, if you pull a Geomancer, like we're seeing it in the free-to-play at the moment, everyone that pulled a Geomancer is doing the unthinkables. You talk about bombers, whatever boss you want to face, goodbye. And, it's such minimal requirements, once again, like a Doom Priest. If you've got that accuracy, you reflect that damage back to a boss, because it's not built on raw damage. It's based off reflections. And one of the key components of Geomancer that I feel like is probably one of the best parts is the damage reduction that you receive. I believe you take 15% less damage from these enemies that's placed by his burns. And, over the course of a run, it just alleviates so much damage, right?
What's really interesting, we've mentioned this about Geo before in this Raid Madness series, is that he was actually ranked around the 30s. He was high 30s or low 30s, I guess. I think he was ranked 31, 32, something like that by the votes in game. But clearly, the YouTube community knows how good he is. And so I'm interested in seeing, does he push all the way through into the finals? Or is there somebody in this quadrant who can actually knock him out? Tell us your thoughts on Sepulchre Sentinel.
Sepulchre Sentinel is... how can I put this? Like, she was the first champion that actually pushed me to actually, do you know what? I'll tell you a fun story about Sepulchre Sentinel. She was a part of the Rotos, the Lost Grim fusion, if I recall correctly, or part of some fusion. I think it was Rotos. And at that time, I was like, I was in 2 minds to myself. Do I want a Rotos? I didn't know the power of Rotos back then, right? This was years ago. I was like, do I go for the Rotos or do I keep the Sepulchre Sentinel? And then I decided I wanted the Rotos. And then what happened was I forgot to fuse Rotos. I was left with Sepulchre Sentinel. I was like, damn, what am I going to do? And I only just pulled a Rotos like maybe last year or so. But Sepulchre Sentinel at that time was the first reason why I got to Ultra Nightmare Clan Boss, because she's got block debuffs, decreased attack, increased defense. Granted that it's on a 4-turn cooldown, so a 4-to-3 ratio is necessary. But she's just so good, and that passive where I believe she she just mitigates incoming damage to 0 on like a certain cooldown, and whether that be a stun hit from the clan boss or you're taking a big smack from someone in the arena, you could just negate that attack completely, right? So she's a pretty unique one, but I don't think she's anywhere near the caliber of a Geomancer.
No, and that's what happens. Yeah, that's what happens in these matchups. Obviously, you get the powerhouses like Geomancer, who are going to push through these brackets, and that means great champions like Sepulchre Sentinel just get shoved aside. She's a little bit too niche. She's really useful in that niche, and anybody who pulls her should consider building her, like you said, for clan boss because of that block damage passive, but also the block debuffs buff that she gets. Really good champion, but unfortunately, just a victim of a low seed here. There's no way she goes up against Geo. Let's move on to the next matchup. We've got the 3 seed here, which is Venom Mage against a relatively lesser known support, I think, in Tagore. I actually really like Tagore. I think he's probably poorly rated here at a 14 seed. I think he's stronger than that. I think Venom Mage is probably seeded correctly here. What do you think about the relative power gap between these 2 champions?
This is actually a pretty tough one. Like with Doom Priest and Anchorite, I could see like similarities in the senses of, good for clan boss, good for certain areas. With Sepulchre Sentinel and Geomancer, both very good for clan boss as well, and other bosses in this game. I feel like Tagore and Venom Mage are so different. Like Venom Mage is, you place that heal reduction and you actually get a value similar to a Geomancer, right? You get a 15% damage reduction, which is phenomenal. And you also get those poison detonations like a Dark Hail. You get extra poisons, like decreased defense, decreased attack. She's just so good in this game. And I would love it for something like the free-to-play. Whereas someone like Tagore is, I believe, a strong AoE reviver with increased speed and heals and stuff. So, and he is, I would say, like you just mentioned before, I feel like he's very, very underrated in this game. Like let me just find him quickly. So an increased speed on a 3-turn cooldown is phenomenal. Revives all dead allies with a shield, and an increased defense, and decreases the damage allies take under 50% by 10%. That's got a lot of value for areas such as Hydra, or whatever that may be, or even Clan Boss, even Arena. But Venom Mage is just this might be one of the toughest ones, so far.
I agree. You've got two great champions here. I think Tagore is. We actually had to make a little bit space above him, so I think he was naturally rated somewhere around 11. But I think even at 11, he could potentially be low because, like you said, when you look at his kit, it's a very good, very versatile kit. And when you think about epic revivers, there aren't that many revivers in the epic rarity who have an AoE revive, and few of them are as good as his. I would say after Ursula, he's in contention for maybe the second best reviver in the epic rarity. It's a really strong revive. And you mix in the rest of his kit, and it's hard to dismiss this guy. If you pull him on an early game account and you build him, I think he will be an everywhere carry. But of course, he's going up against Venom Mage, who you can say the absolute same thing about, but she's also a damage dealer, right? And she can even be a soloer later in the game. You can make her your solo dragon champion, solo ice golem champion. And then she also works in Clan Boss, whether you're going killable or unkillable, because she does have that damage mitigation that you were talking about. So it may just be two really good versatile champions. And perhaps, Venom Mage has a little bit more versatility. And that might be the thing that gets her over the top.
Yeah, this is the thing that she does. It's like sometimes new pieces of content come. It's like, oh, Venom Mage here again. We could just use a Venom Mage. So I think for that, because I still use it to this day, and I do have to go, but I never find myself using him. But of course, that just depends on my roster and how wide it is. I think I would push towards Venom Mage being the better option here for players, if I was to choose one or the other.
Yeah, it's a surprisingly difficult choice here when you think it's a 3 seed versus a 14 seed. But I think it's worth the debate because these are both excellent champions that if you happen to pull either one in an early game account or a free-to-play account, you should definitely think about building either one of these champions. Okay, so moving on to the next matchup, we have the 4 seed Ostrox against the 13 seed Seeker. And I'm really interested in your take on this because I think Ostrox has a fantastic kit, but I've never actually built one myself. And then we're going into Seeker at the 13 seed, who is one of my favorite champions, and actually the very first epic I ever built on my main account. And he is one of the OGs. He's got a great turn meter fill, and he was honestly not even part of the original field. We had to find space for him in this bracket because he wasn't voted in by the players. And so he's landed here at the 13 seed, and maybe a little bit low, but give me your thoughts on these two champions.
Ostrox was recently added to the game, and do you know what? I think I was away somewhere. Maybe I was when I went to Vegas for TwitchCon or something, and I pulled some void shards, right? And this guy came out. I was like, where did he come from? I don't know this champion. So I did recently look at him, so I kind of half know what he does. I believe it's around, what is it? Let me just find it quickly. Undead Hordes, right? So block debuffs or block buffs. Okay, that's actually pretty cool for a 3 turn duration if there's 4 more enemies. Great for Hydra boss, I like that. Void Affinity AoE opens the opportunity for curse sets. Removes 1 random debuff from allies, was placing a 50% increased accuracy as well on all allies. Pretty cool, and then a transfer of debuffs as well. Yeah, that's a pretty cool champion. I think, there's champions such as Ugo in the game. There is Umbral Enchantress that also utilizes provokes. So I'd say that there is other options out there. Even though there is turn meter fill champions in the game, I feel like Seeker still stands up there as one of the best, right? Because of that extra turn mechanic. Great for clan boss teams, and I use him until this day in my clan boss team. So, and also, if you don't want to use him in clan boss, he's a good provoker. Turn meter fills in your secret rooms, in classic arenas or tag team arenas, you name it. I just feel like if you pull a Seeker, he's like, even if you don't really, really need him, he's still probably someone who can max up, right, over a CBC or something, because he just holds so much value. Whereas someone like Ostrox, maybe if you've got multiple block buffs champions, do you really need him? Is what I'm trying to answer myself.
I think what you're hitting on is my thought process as well, which is that as good as Ostrox's kit seems to be, Seeker is actually a unique champion in the game. Because not only does he get a 30% turn meter fill, which is a very large fill, that's the same fill that Arbiter gives. And he also gives the increased attack that Arbiter gives. So he's got a very similar turn meter fill. But then with the extra turn mechanic, it is on a 2-turn cooldown. And that's why he enables those 3-to-1, Demitha teams in Clan Boss. He's one of the few champions that really allows you to get up to those crazy speeds and allows you to lap, your enemies so frequently. In this particular case, even though he's the 13th seed, just because he is so unique, it's really hard seeing another champion knocking him off unless they are also extremely powerful.
Yeah, for me, I think Ostrux, for him to take this spot, he would need something a little bit more than a block buffs for me. As great it is, free turn cooldown or free turn duration is phenomenal. Not many champions has that value. But do you know if he just had like a burn on the A1 or an increased attack with that increased accuracy or just a little something? But even then, I think I'd still go with the Seeker. He's too good to pass up on. Yeah.
There's always an upset in the bracket, and sometimes it's a matter of matchup, and sometimes it's a matter of just somebody being misplaced. In this case, it might be a little bit of both. Let's move on to the next matchup. We've got the 5th seed Vogov against the 12th seed Senesha. Two champions who can keep your team moving, although they do it in different ways. Which one do you prefer in this matchup?
Vogov.
That was quick. That was easy.
Yep, Vogov. Moving on. I'm joking. No, Senesha's really good. Like, even till this day, I got rid of stun set. She holds value in my faction wars team. She's great when you pair her up with the Skull Crown as well. For that kind of synergy going on there. And I feel like the value with the was it the equalizer HP, which you can bring all of your levels HP to the highest target, has a lot of value for areas like Phantom Shoguns. Like, for anyone that's not familiar with those strategies out there, you basically have your highest crit damage target as your enfeeble, and then when they take that damage, having someone that could do such a massive heal, like those Withered Crowns, like a Senesha, it's very hard to find these equalizer champions outside of Walking Tomb Drang, who's a legendary. I believe there is a few more options nowadays, but I know that it's not crazy.
Right.
The amount of champions that can do it. So for those reasons, like, there is some niche endgame spots that I use, especially like, once again, Secret Room, Citranos. If you don't have other options, you're going to look towards someone like her for control in a stun set. I just feel like Vogov is very similar to that Doom Priest effect. I don't want to keep going back to her, but he does not require books to become amazing. It's all based off passive abilities, reflecting leeches back to the boss, like every single turn, by the way, which allows you to heal by 18% of the damage inflicted. So think about those clan boss teams or any bosses that you face. You're going to be able to put this on those targets. He's also got the increasing of the debuff durations on the A1. He's got AoE provokes that I think people forget about as well, which is phenomenal. And then also, how can we forget about Bummel, right? Like, against those 40% max HP Dread Bomb hits, he's one of the best champions in the game to pair up with those Geomancers for those strategies. So, yeah, I think Vogov, for that fact alone, he just blows Senesha out of the water in terms of versatility.
I think you're right. And I think Vogov is one of those champions that maybe we don't talk about as much as we should. Because it seems at first glance like he's a one-trick pony, right? He's just got this passive and it's a great heal. And you're like, okay, that's cool. But he actually does have a pretty well-rounded kit. I do want to point out something that most people forget about Senesha, which is she is one of the few champions that can actually completely lock out an enemy's skills. She can put all of the skills on cooldown. It's a single target ability, but that can be extremely useful in places like Arena, Live Arena, for instance, or sometimes when you're trying to get through a secret room or a particular floor on Doom Tower. So she does have spot uses even at endgame because there aren't that many champions who have that skill, and there are very few epics who are even in that area of locking out skills in that way.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a very good one-trick pony, I guess. Like, even for the Eternal Dragon, I know that when we was doing that live stream for the free-to-play, it's a great way to lock out the Eternal Dragon skills, right? So, yeah, it definitely has a lot of use, for sure. I'd still, like, these are the things, like, these matchups, because we're speaking about the best of the best in terms of epics, it's like we have to let one of them down. And, I love Senesha, but Vogov is, and I'm pretty sure your viewers would agree, he's on a different level, You put a Vogov and you're smiling for the rest of the week with a Vogov.
Yeah, I agree. And the speed with which you answered the initial question really speaks to how likely you are to build that champion. All right, let's move on to the next matchup. Now, this is really interesting. We've got the twins here, the undead twins. Gorgorab is up against Mausoleum Mage. Both are excellent supports. They do the support job very differently from one another. They're both freaky to look at. Which one do you prefer in this matchup?
Oh man, you put the brothers together. It's like putting Skullcrown and Senesha together. It's like, which one's better, guys?
Right.
Man, the cousin or the brother here, or just cousins, I guess. Can't be cousins and brothers. YST. Um, Go Grab, great reviver. I've had a lot of value with him on the free to play, like a ton. Like increased attack, 10 meter fills, great speed auras. You got heals in there as well, increased attacks. You name it. He just like he's the answer for players that don't have an arbiter, right? You know, we discussed the Sepulchre Sentinel earlier, right? And I would put Sepulchre Sentinel above this champion for me anyway. If I was talking about clan boss specific,
Sure.
but increased crit rate, increased defense is a nice little synergy. 3-turn cooldown with that block debuffs. I would just rather see a 2-turn duration here for me to really value him a little bit more. I feel like there's a lot more that's coming to the game that does it better. Decreased speed as well. A1, big variation, 50% chance. Nah, Go Grab. I think I would. It just comes down to like, once again, what do you need? Like, if I was in Centranos, right, and I needed like a block debuffs champion, and there is nobody else that I can choose, Mosley Mage is gonna be on the radar. Like for me, like where I am in the game now, like if I had an Arbiter and then I pulled a Gore Grab afterwards, would I build him up? Probably not outside of Faction Wars, personally. But that's just personal preference. But then maybe my mind would switch between like, oh, maybe I do build up a Mosley Mage because he's got other utility that, you know, I might need in some areas. But I'd say very early game. I'd see, I need to pick one choice here, Cole Red.
It's not easy.
You're making me like talk to myself. Like, what do I think, really?
Every single matchup is another debate. And that's the cool thing about this bracket system. It doesn't feel like, I mean, despite how quickly you picked Vogov in the last pick, we still had a debate about the champions. And then you get these two champions who are much more closely maybe valued. And it becomes very difficult. And it doesn't even matter what the seeds are. You're just looking at the champions and asking yourself, man, how can I pick just one? But that's what we're asking you to do. That's why you're the expert. That's why you're here. So the question is just, I guess, what do you value more? Do you value more the arena, or do you value more maybe having a cleanser and a block debuffs in your team?
Oh, this might be the hardest one, you know. It's all subjective. Like if you was to say to me your YST before Arbiter, who would you want more? I'd probably pick the Gorab.
Yes.
If you said your YST, who do you want after the Arbiter? Maybe this dude, you know, full out cleanse, you know, block
Right.
debuffs. One's got to go through YST. All right, I'm not gonna make the choice. Genzen's gonna make the choice. All right.
All right. We're bringing out the Genzen mask.
There we go.
I love it.
There we go.
First collab, we got the mask.
So the choice that we go for this seed is Go Grab.
There you go.
Go Grab takes it. Genzen said it, not me. So I can't be held accountable. So for you guys out there that love your Mausoleum Mages, don't blame me. Blame the Shadow King.
Now, this is probably going to be the most controversial pick in this entire region. We have Whisper at the 7 seed, who I don't think is controversial at all, going up against Seer at the 10 seed, who I think people are going to think is extremely underrated at the 10 seed. But again, just to let you know, Seer did not make the cut originally. She was ranked around 150 or so out of the 191 champions that we reviewed. But obviously, that ranking was wrong, and she deserves to be here. We just didn't know where, and this is where she ended up at the 10 seed. Still too low, but what happens when you've got a great damage dealer for bosses like Whisper against a great damage dealer for waves like Seer? YST, give me your thoughts.
See what I mean, guys? Colred hates me, man. he's like, I'm trying to break up your friendship with Saf. Like, you know, he loves Whisper. Here you go. Now you're gonna try and kick it down the curb. No. In jokes aside, I think it's a no-brainer to say Seer. You know, like if you got to say it's the quickest way outside a poison explosion to get through waves. Like I am just snapping through the Doom Tower nowadays. I remember 2 years ago I was there with Coroner and Manaya. Like for 15 minutes of floor trying to get to the top, and then I would die from Eternal Dragon. The times have changed. It's too easy nowadays in comparison to back then. But Whisper is a little sneaky secret weapon, right? She comes through and annihilates the Dark Fae. Talk about she's in my main Phantom Shogun's team, in my main 120 Dark Fae team. She's in my where else is she in? I think that's the two main areas I would say. Yeah, that's the two areas that I use nowadays for Whisper. She's very, very good. Also Hydra, by the way. I use her in my Hydra team. Very cool.
A lot of players do. She's actually extremely good for Hydra.
But Seer is like, you know, everything in this game is around time, right? it takes too much time. It takes too much time. And who better to speed it up than an epic champion in Seer, right? Just get through those waves. I would say that one thing is Whisper's great as a standalone champion, right? Doesn't need too much requirements to enable her kit. Whereas someone like Seer, you may need those resets, like those Renegades, those Kaimars, those Yumikos, and you need enough buffs in your team to take them off and all of that good stuff. So there's a synergy that needs to go around Seer to become amazing. Whereas Whisper is just strong by herself.
That's true. And in fact, I think one of the things to consider about this bracket, again, we're looking at it from a free-to-play, or I'm looking at it from a free-to-play perspective. And although Seer is absolutely fantastic, and if you were just taking the most, like if this bracket we were about the most powerful champions in the game, Seer would have to be at the very top of that list, along with just a few other champions. But I think one of the things that I've noticed in playing a lot of free-to-play accounts is that it takes a while for your Seer to come online. If you pull her in the first 2 months of an account and you build her to 6 stars, she's not going to be providing as much value as you might think she should be, being as strong as she is. On the flip side, if you get Whisper early on and build her, that's going to help you in Clan Boss, that's going to help you in Dungeons, it's going to help you in Doom Tower, like you said, and all you have to do is basically be able to cobble together one really good damage-dealing artifact set, and she is off to the races.
Yeah, this is the way that I'm going to put it. Wait, what do you say, Genzin? All right. I just had to speak to him. He said to break it down in this way.
Okay.
So, if Raid had a promo code, you're starting this game, right? You can start with a Seer on one hand. You can start with a Whisper on the other hand. I know for damn well 99.9% million players are going to choose the Seer because it's that guarantee that in the future you will have that champion. Whereas, Whisper, you could probably do without her. Rathalos Blade Masters, you got other damage dealers. There's so many damage dealers in the game. Whereas someone like Seer is one of a kind, right? Like, no matter where you are in the game, you are using your Seer to clear your waves. So I think I would go with the Seer, 1000%. I'll just talk my way around it just to make Saf happy.
Sure.
Hope you're proud, bro. There you go. I'll take the money later, by the way. PayPal. But yeah, Seer, 100%.
All right, so Seer is going through to the next round. YST has made the call, or Genzin has helped, I guess, make the call.
No, that was me. I'm proud of that one.
All right,
Sorry,
that's your call. Okay. That's your call. All right, so we are going on to the last matchup in this corner of the bracket. The 9 seed here against the 8 seed. So the 8 seed is Morag Bronzelock, who is an excellent ally attack champion. She also brings a strength into your entire team. And then we've got Ruella here, who is an absolutely fantastic champion for Fire Knight, also for Clan Boss, brings a lot of debuffs. And a triple hit on her A1. 2 excellent champions, meaning here in the middle of the bracket. This is going to be a tough call, YST. What do you think?
Did Hades struggle as much as I am right now?
Everybody has struggled so far. Hades struggled just as much as you did. It is a very difficult thing to do, and it's really fun to have the debate. And the thing that I enjoy most, YST, is knowing right now some viewers are screaming one name, and some viewers are screaming the other. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I didn't read it. These are this might be arguably, I think this is the hardest one you've stemmed upon me today. Like, Whisper and Seer, I did know in the back of my mind, probably Seer. Just wanted to speak about Whisper for my boy Saf. Vogov was probably a no-brainer. Doom Priest, no-brainer. Geomancer, I kind of knew subconsciously who I would choose after beating around the bush for 1,564 million hours. But Ruella is a very, very strong decreased defense, decreased speed, weakened option, 10 meter reductions, dark phase, phantom shoguns, you name it. She is phenomenal. 10 meter fills, increased crit rates a lot. Morag Bronzelock is a sleeper pick, someone that I've been sleeping on for a very long time. But she's actually the only epic champion in the game with a 3-turn strengthen buff or 3-turn cooldown strengthen buff. Right. And being able to utilize that is so powerful for that damage reduction, right? It's like straight out 25% reduction, survivability on point. She's also a great damage dealer. She has those ally attack features, helping you out with the Fire Knight. Theme of where we are in today's episode, right? We're in the Fire Knight's lair.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, she's screaming at me. She's like, yo, we're in the Fire Knight. Like, how can you pick? Actually, Ruella's so good for Fire Knight as well. What am I talking about?
They're both good for Fire Knight in different ways, but you always want at least one ally attacker. Perhaps the limitation here on Morag is that her ally attack only brings 2 allies in, not the full team. Still very good. You're going to be guaranteed to get multi-hitters in there with her if you're in Fire Knight. But Ruella brings a lot of hits on her own. Plus, I believe, does she have a decreased speed? as well. So, you know, you
Decrease
have
speed as well, yeah.
you have that debuff there, which is a critical debuff for Fire Knight and also useful against a lot of bosses. Any boss that can actually be affected by a decreased speed, you almost are guaranteed to want to bring a decreased speed champion.
You know, Ruel is very good, but let's just say you've got another decreased speed option, your Royal Guards, for instance, right? You've got your decreased defenses from your Royal Guard as well, and then you lead in with a law, okay, for instance. Then I might not have the value for my Ruelu anymore. But that doesn't mean that I wouldn't still use it in areas such as Dark Fae. It's just there is other options around that. Someone like Morag brings in something that no other epics in the game can do. And in these really hard areas of Sintranos, and you need a strengthen / damage dealer / ally attack / ignoring shields, you know, it's got very good endgame viability in some of these niche areas.
Even in Hydra.
Do I have to put one of them in there? Do you know, can we just leave them there at the bottom and they never make it to the end? They just fight each other. Is that cool?
It's good to know that at least for one of our picks, it feels like the seedings are correct, right? We have an 8 and a 9 battling it out. It's really close, and maybe they belong in the middle of this bracket. So I guess what I'm just going to have to do is say, hey, you're the expert, so we're going to trust your call. Going to put it all on you. Going to put all the pressure on you, YST. You just have to know that probably whoever is coming out of this spot is going up against Doom Priest. And does either champion have a chance of getting past Doom Priest in your eyes? And if not, then it's really just a first round call.
I'm gonna I'm gonna go with to be continued.
Oh boy. Gonna let it hang there.
I'm gonna go with my gut and go with Morag Bronzelock.
All right, excellent. So we have walked through all of the matchups now. So now we're going to start moving YST into the second round, third round. We're going to kind of project moving forward through the bracket towards that epic 8. So let's take a look at the overall quadrant here, the Fire Knight's Castle. We've got the Geomancer on the bottom of the bracket at 2. We've got Doom Priest up there at the top at 1. And then we've got some of our sleeper picks here. Do you feel like anybody is going to create an upset? Who's going to break the bracket here and maybe shake things up?
What you mean? What one that might come through and take the whole thing?
Yeah, a
like
dark horse, somebody who's maybe not what you expect that could create an upset and at least go relatively far, maybe get to the Sacred 16 or the Epic 8 that you wouldn't expect. Somebody other than maybe Geomancer.
I think the Morag, what we just spoke about. I think she could be a sleeper to get very far. It just depends on how many players understand the value. Because like I said before, I didn't understand the value. And I played this game every day for like the past 5 years. Only until the past 3-4 months, I started, picking her up and having fun with it. So I think once you actually dissect the kit, understand that she is an epic champion fulfilling so many cool roles. With endgame viability in areas like Sintranos, it could be one that might slip through. You never know if people really like her.
So you think she's got a chance to go to the Epic 8, so that would be the 4th round, and maybe meet up with Geomancer in that matchup? Or do you think somebody else is going to come out of the bottom of the bracket other than Geo?
Geo is just so typical. Like, he's just a no-brainer. This is the issue. And then same thing with Seer. Like, it'll be an interesting one. Do you know what I would love to see? Seer going up against Geomancer. If I'd seen that one, that's probably the toughest one in this entire challenge thing that's going on at the moment. That is probably I'd be sitting there for 5 hours on a video with you trying to figure that one out.
Right, exactly. Those are two fantastic champions, yeah.
Another one that I think might slip in a little bit could be the Tagore. Like maybe if early game players are picking him up and getting a tremendous value and they're really voting for this, I can see Tagore maybe slipping in as a very strong support option, maybe, for sure.
Yeah, there are definitely some options here. I'm also keeping my eye on the Seeker because I think Seeker is just a fantastic champion and might actually make it through as well. But this is the really interesting thing about the Fire Knight's Castle region this year, which is that of all of the regions, I think this is the one where there are so many question marks, right? Seer up against Geomancer. How did that happen in the second round? And who do you pick if you can only pick one? That is obviously a huge question. You got Venom Mage against Tagore. We debated that. You've got Seeker here at a 13 seed. Does not deserve to be that low. Should be much higher. And then, like you said, you got the Ruella versus Morag. Even the Doom Priest is a little bit confusing as the 1 seed. Definitely a powerhouse of a champion. Absolute build. If you pull her, every account should have one. But does that mean that she goes through? who really knows when you get the head-to-head matchups. And I guess we'll have to see what the viewers think, because now they've heard your opinion, and so they get to decide for themselves and make their own brackets and their own predictions, and then also vote on these matchups later on. And that will be unfolding in the coming weeks. All right, well, thank you so much for being here, YST. I think this has been really fun. I love that the Genzen mask came out. By the way,
again, here we go.
Yeah, there we go. This is the captain of Team Shadowverse for the HH Free-to-Play Challenge account. He's my captain, and I really appreciate you being here, YST. Do you have anything that you want to say to the folks? Anything that's going on your channel, in your life, or anything at all?
No, just appreciate you having me on. It's been really cool. Like, we've been speaking about this since we kind of set up Shadowverse, right, with this HH Gaming Challenge, and it's been a pleasure getting to know you because, like I mentioned before, I was aware of you. I watched you with the J Gigs collaboration and stuff, but I never actually had the chance to, speak with you, get to know you as a person outside of just raid,
Sure.
So it's been really cool, and also congratulations on your baby once again. And
thank
everybody
you.
watching this video, go and subscribe to CoreRed. Let's get him to 10K. Let's go for this challenge series.
That's a great call out. Thank you so much. And like you said, it's been really great getting to know you, chatting with you every day in Discord for Team Shadowverse has been really fun as well, and even being in each other's live streams a little bit, which has been really fun.
Yeah.
So, all right, I'm going to link YST's YouTube channel down below in the description of this video. Go check him out if you haven't already. Make sure you throw him a subscription as well. One of my favorite content creators, and thanks for being here. That is it today for this episode of Raid Madness. Make sure that you have subscribed to the channel so you get notifications for any further videos in the series. And the bracket will be up at the end of the week, so you'll be able to fill out your own prediction and compete against our analysts like YST here. So much. I have been CoreRed, and we will see you in another video soon.